The Fate franchise is one of the most popular IPs out there from Japan. Its name has spread to the US, and even the rat rummaging inside of your wall might know more about the franchise than you do. Most people know of Fate Grand Order, which is a mobile game that, can really steal your entire bank account information within seconds, just because you looked at a character. I am also definitely not projecting or anything, because that game definitely has not taken my money whatsoever. I may have many regrets, but at least I got Jolter, baby! Anyways, let's just disregard my financial history for the sake of time. I got a whole video to make about anime women, you know? Fate as a franchise is so much more than just a mobile game. It actually started out as a visual novel series that is, not very YouTube friendly. Now, thanks to all that, stuff, a bunch of games have spawned from a sudden surge of Joan of Arc Rule 34 searches. I mean popularity. And if you really want to scratch that Fate visual novel itch, you could read the entire 60-hour plus visual novel online at your own pace. Now, as far as the silly scenes being in there, I haven't explored enough to see if they were there. But my guess is that they're not, so you'll be missing out on very special dialogue. My favorite one being this. Like, what the fuck does this even mean? Who goes into a writing room and fucking writes this shit, man? One game in particular being Fate Extella Link, which is basically a Dynasty Warriors game but with historical figures. These, historical figures have been weeabooized, I guess. Like Nero Claudius over here who became a blonde anime girl for some fucking reason. And somehow, don't worry Europeans, they got King Arthur as well, so you're not even safe yourselves. So how does this game work? Your player character is basically the master of a digital world called Seraph, where historical figures are brought back as artificial recreations called servants. So basically this is a dreamland for any freak that's into AI porn. I bet they have Cortana hentai saved in their folder as well. In combat, you control your servants to defeat hordes of mobs, many hordes of mobs, for the sake of pleasing Tamamo so you can edge to her calling you master in the hub zone.
その時までセラフを滅ぼすわけには参りません。いえ、もうほとんど妻のようなものですが。
Hey, where'd you get that?
The story mode is very linear. You just pick a mission, beat the mission, and unlock the next one. Pretty simple if you ask me. Paths can deviate every now and then with different missions and storylines due to the choices you made throughout a playthrough, mainly in cutscenes though. Now, you can always go back and replay the missions you missed to experience them, which is a godsend considering there's multiple endings gated behind specific choices. You could probably pick up on this, but I really didn't mention much about the story. Let's just say it's a story, and it's there, with 3 different endings. And that is all. If you played any Dynasty Warrior game, then you basically know the feel of Fate Extella Link. For combat, you have your attack, your heavy attack, and specials as well, and also a guard, but everyone forgets that exists. The core loop of this game is to use your combat abilities depending on each character's kit and playstyle to take over zones on each map, slaying mobs and bosses along the way. You have a selection of 26 characters to choose from, each with their own active skills and combos, visually at least. I'm mentioning this because each character's combos follow the same standard route, with the main changes just being visual. Of course, they also have other mechanics built into their kits, like pure crowd control, debuffs, or just full-on damage, that separate the monotony of pressing the same 2 buttons over and over and over again. Once a character is selected, you're thrusted into the battlefield to conquer territory in Seraph, just like me, trying to defend my home from the mob of protesters outside of my house, goading me for not explaining the lore of the game. Gameplay itself is very fluent once you get over the initial hurdles of figuring out what buttons do what. Enemies aren't all that annoying either. Sure, your whole screen will be filled with a bunch of matte black knight silhouettes, but that's not really an issue when your nuclear anime girl is making combo numbers go logarithmic. Most of the time, you're gonna be dashing past half of these enemies anyways, simply due to needing to prioritize attacking higher level foes that lock down the zones. Once you beat them, you can control these zones and it will start to spawn your own troops for support instead of the enemies. Now, just because you can take control of these zones doesn't mean that enemies can't take them back. Bad guys also have access to these weird little things called plants, which if left alone for too long, will start to spawn their own enemy servants onto the field. Enemy servants are much like the ones you control, being weebilized. Weebilized! What the fuck? These historical figures, so to say, are here more to just impede your progress and make it a little bit more annoying to finish missions, as they have a larger health pool than any of the other enemies on the field. As you go throughout the mission and you're nearing completion, you'll be fighting the final boss of that mission, which 9 times out of 10 is usually a servant that you've been playing from the roster. The servants also aren't too tough to fight. Yeah, they have a massive health pool, more than the shadow servants, but this is to be expected from any Dynasty Warriors-esque game. At least there's some haha funny dialogue interactions between your cutesy anime chick and the enemy's cutesy anime chick, if that's even a positive for you.
You should kill yourself now!
Now, you may be inclined to ask, hey Karo, why am I fighting servants? Aren't I the master of this harem? God King Charlemagne, leader of the Franks, Lombards, and the Holy Roman Empire is also a player, and in the Conquest game, he wants to take over cyberspace. He basically says, hey, I don't like that guy because he wants to stop my rule over this place, and sends his own brothel of anime concubines to fight you. He also has their spirit cores, whatever the fuck that means. Dumbass lore aside, enemy servants are the biggest threat to your player character, as they can directly damage them and show them what a real high school playground is like. They can damage you directly, or they can shoot you from a range. As to why your character, the head of the Saber fan club, is out on the battlefield and not staying in the hub, commanding your forces from afar while getting your shit yoinked by Medusa, is beyond me. There's probably a lore reason, but who cares at this point? But yeah, that's practically the loop of the entire game. Even if you replay the missions and get all the endings, including the secret ending, you're looking at a grand total of 2 to 4 hours possibly of just main story content. That is if you're playing the game at least a brisk pace. If you're not, you're probably looking at around solid 6-8 hours of just main story content. Fortunately, there is an epilogue containing an extra mode. This mode is essentially just a collection of side missions fully separated from the story, where you get challenged by higher leveled enemies and slightly modified mission types to keep things semi-fresh. You also have a bond level with each servant you can play as, which you can build up by doing requests that they may have at any given time. The max level for each servant is 30, and as you progress through the bond levels, they have more unique dialogue to say as you converse with them at the hub. And some of them are a little, you know. They can also unlock more slots to upgrade your character with instant skills, but we will get to those later. Each character also has an ultimate called a Noble Phantasm, which is basically a callback to something related to their lore in history, or is a play on who they are related to in history, and all of these are extremely flashy, even if they are as simple as a sword slash. The characters are also separated into different classes like Saber, Archer, Berserker, Lancer, Rider, Caster, Assassin, and Ruler. The main thing that changes between these archetypes are the visual fidelity of each combo that they are doing, and certain skills being locked to that archetype, but this also comes at a cost, as you may feel like certain characters are underperforming more than others. You may also feel like they're doing less damage than the rest of the cast, which could be true, but I haven't really done any testing yet. But I have felt this when I wanted to switch from character to character, and some felt way worse than others. This could lead to a small issue, as the game also has a multiplayer mode that is, yeah, it's kind of dead. It also doesn't help that the game came out in 2019, and it's an anime game on PC, so that may have a massive impact on the multiplayer as well. I may not have been able to play this game online, but I'm pretty sure that it would have been extremely fun to fight other servants that are actually controlled by other players instead of AI, who doesn't know what a stun lock looks like, or what an opening looks like as well. If that wasn't enough, you can also grind to make the perfect build, so to speak, as you can farm different mystic codes that can be fully focused on defense or can be full on offense, or even a mix of both. The choice is really up to you and your playstyle. And not only can you customize your master, you can also customize your servants as well. You collect these orbs called instant skills that give you certain stat bonuses to whatever you see fit. Or you can also apply certain damage types like fire or debuffs like poison. You could also enhance how your servant plays as a whole. Instead of just doing pure damage, you could also do a pure tank build and play the game as slowly as possible, since you will be a snail, you fucking melon. There is quite a bit more that I could talk about, but I'm going to leave that out so you can experience the game for yourself. While yes, the game does have its flaws, the story to me being a big one, I still think that the game is a great time waster to really fuel that Dynasty Warriors hack and slash itch. I would say to get it on sale though, unless you're willing to break the $50 price wall this game demands from you. Also, the DLC could either awaken something inside of you that you never knew about, or it could be a big waste of money. And that's about it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video and me rambling on about a game that is what, 5-6 years old at this point? Well, yes, again, like I said, there's a lot of flaws. Please try it, and also try the game before it, Fate Extella. That's also a great hack and slash, and it could also be worth a lot of time investment.